This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks, with an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.
Oh, hi. Hi, everybody.
I need something stronger than root beer.
Yeah, let's say hi to some people. What's going on? Welcome to another fine edition of the Paranormal Show and Tell with your hosts, Randy Gilbert and Donny Cho. And tonight, we have a special guest. Randy, would you like to introduce our illustrious guest?
How about I just sing? I am pretty, oh so pretty.
Yes,
it's the pretty one, Jason.
I am the pretty one.
Yes, and Brandy is off doing...
She's moonlighting. Don't even try. She's moonlighting, trying to do other crap for others.
Yeah,
she's cheating on y'all. Don't just understand, y'all are the side bitches. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. Well, we already knew that.
Fair.
And so it's going to be the three of us tonight. I put up the bat signal. Jason McLean came in answering, and he asked, "What topic do you want to do tonight, guys?" And I'm like, "Let's talk about the Book of Enoch and the Nephilim, because it ain't like we haven't done that before."
It's new and untouched ground.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
certainly
I still don't know what the hell's going on. So yeah, rock on.
Yeah. Clearly.
Okay, no, but there's actually a more specific reason why I chose this topic actually today. The show will remain nameless, but a few weeks ago, it was late at night. I think it was like a Friday or Saturday. I don't remember. But I was just kind of lying in bed, dilly-dallying on my phone. I was in one of these paranormal, cryptid kind of shows in the chat, just hanging out. And I guess one of the speakers there was talking about like the Book of Enoch and the Nephilim. And boy, let me tell you, there were some goofy opinions being thrown around. In the chat and on the show, there were some real goofy opinions, right? Just about like, you know, the Nephilim was, or not the Nephilim, the Book of Enoch was redacted by the Council of Nicaea because they wanted to hide the truth, Jason McLean, about the aliens. And the sacred feminine. They held that stuff down too, because of the patriarchy. Those evil Nicene Council guys, Jason, they're trying to hide the truth about feminists and aliens,
and feminist aliens.
Or
to be alien feminists.
Yeah. So I was like, really? There's some goofiness going on in this show. I'm not gonna name the show, but I'm sure any of you have who have gone around listening to some of the shows in general will have come across some goofy opinions about the Book of Enoch and the Nephilims. So I was like, you know what? I'm in the mood. We got Jason on tonight. Let's talk about the Book of Enoch. And Jason, let's do some opinions that aren't completely stupid.
I like the introduction. I mean, now personally, I am shocked, I say, to hear that there were weird opinions on the internet. This whole community is usually such a well-tempered.
You stop that when I'm in mid-drink, all right?
You're the one who chose to drink while I was doing a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Real quick. General rule of thumb: if someone starts any conversation with at the Council of Nicaea, just ignore everything they're about to say. Because if half the things happen at the Council of Nicaea, that if half the things actually happened there as claimed to have been happened, it would have run for like a century. Like nothing anyone ascribes to the Council of Nicaea happened there.
I could
Like,
all right, how about this statement? Ready?
Yeah.
At the Council of Nicaea, comma, Santa Claus smacked a dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. That happened.
Santa Claus bitch slapped a heretic, and all it was really discussed was the deity of Christ. That's it.
Yep.
That's it. That is all they did. That's where the Nicene Creed comes from.
Oh, they weren't trying to redact the knowledge of the Anunnaki or anything like that?
No.
No? Okay. Just making sure.
Would this have been the same spot where South Park did their first thing, the very first thing they ever did, where, they Jesus and Santa Claus fought over Christmas?
No.
No.
Did you even see that?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's not.
Let's say, if you did not see it, gentlemen and ladies, please go find that on somewhere and watch it, because it was one of the most, outside of the anal probe, it's probably one of the greatest ones of all time.
Yeah.
The anal probe one was probably the peak South Park.
No.
I
We can
disagree
talk
with
a lot
that.
more about that later.
I would disagree with that statement.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, 100%. You can hide in your little cubbyhole.
I can name several episodes that were
Yeah.
higher level than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
It's up there. Don't get me wrong.
Conversation for later. But yes, yeah. No, not the same thing. No, real life Santa Claus pimp slapped Arius for being a heretic.
Yeah. It really happened. Yeah.
It really happened.
Yeah. At the Council of Nicaea.
At the Council of Nicaea.
Yeah.
So if anything outside of divinity of Christ, which is what gave us the Nicene Creed, and pimp slapping heretics, they say anything else didn't happen. And you should probably ignore everything else that person says, because they have no idea what they're talking about.
So the Council of Nicaea, not the Council of Nicaea, the Book of Enoch gets brought up a lot in these cryptid paranormal circles, because it talks pretty extensively about the Watchers and the Giants, right? And so naturally people are going to equate that to Bigfoot or some other cryptids, right? So speak on that a bit, Jason. Like the popularity of the Book of Enoch as a topic, as it pertains to the cryptid and paranormal community.
Well, actually, let me start by talking about tulpas, right? In our ongoing conversation, Donald, about how the paranormal community and Fortean researchers sort of took the name tulpa, right, which comes out of Tibetan Buddhism, right? Again, you're the one who sort of elucidated all of this, and I thank you for that. In essential,
time out.
Yep.
I just want to say, is this better? Just tell me if this is better, and then y'all.
Yeah, you're much better.
Because I looked down, my gain was all the way up. I don't know why. I must have hit it when I moved them.
Oh,
I don't know.
it doesn't sound much
no,
different to me, but it's probably different to
Why
the
didn't
people.
y'all tell me that when we were starting out? Instead of making it look, you just like making it look like fools. Okay, got it. All right.
Well,
That's right.
okay. So honestly, you were kind of chopping up, but I wasn't my side or your side. So yeah.
And it could be mine. I mean, there's no telling how many streams are going in this house right now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, same thing over here. So I was like, whatever. Anyway, so one of the things you pointed out is that the word tulpa comes from Tibetan Buddhism, and it is absolutely in no real way connected to how we use it in the modern Fortean realm, right? I think it was Keel who brought that over. And essentially, Keel's, I want to say it was Keel. If it wasn't Keel, forgive me. I'm terrible with names and putting all that together. That's why I write everything down.
Okay. Time out again.
Yes.
We're all cutting in and out. Okay. So one at a time, leave the studio and come back in. Okay. So we'll see if we can reset this thing.
Sure. I'll hop out real quick.
You go.
Another Jason's God, man, that dude sucks, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Randy?
he sucks,
man,
don't he? I mean, God,
he got that
boy,
stinky breath. If you ever meet him in person, man.
Many times.
Yeah.
Weirdo.
Can't stand that guy sometimes.
He might not be able to get back in because you sent him a link. No, he's got access to this one. I think.
Yeah. No, but I sent him the link. You could just
send him the link?
Yeah. No, but I did already. Before. Do I need to send it again? Oh, there he is.
Oh, BJ, trust me. He would have to keep me in line no matter what. So.
All right, I'm going to exit out. I'll be back. Peace.
Okay, you go next.
Don't be talking smack about me when I'm gone.
Well, of course we will.
I'm waiting for him to actually. There we go. Now let's talk about how much.
Just like
Yeah.
you had bad breath and all that other crap from him. Now, what do you got about him?
Oh yeah, that man. Jeez, that man snores, and I'd be okay with his snoring if it wasn't for the fact that he was in such a prick, like all the time, all the time,
all the time.
Everything.
He made fun of the Dallas Cowboys fans the other night. You know that, right?
Oh, I'm very aware. Yes, I'm
All right.
very aware.
I'm back.
And if his driving is awful.
All right.
Hi.
You can talk about me here in a minute now too. Be back in a sec.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know if there isn't a bigger piece of trash than Randy. What about
Randy is so annoying sometimes, man. And like, he's honestly, for those of you who don't know, who've never met him in person, he's got some BO. Oh, hey, it's Randy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, y'all keep talking.
Yep.
It's okay, y'all keep talking. All right, so Jason's still what
All
I'm seeing. I'm hoping this fixes a little bit of it. We'll see, but it sounds like it might be an actual StreamYard issue.
Yeah, because like y'all are fine now.
Yeah.
On my end?
He said,
Yeah.
Who was that said that?
Oh, I'm the one still cutting out? I sound good on my mic. Or on my
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
and
sitting here, so it's got to be StreamYard because we're okay with each other all the way through, and we're hearing each other in real time. Whereas it's got to be going into
yeah, it's got to be StreamYard.
Into YouTube and such. So
it's the yard of the stream.
Yep.
And I don't dare kill it and then restart it because if we do, it'd be a nightmare.
Yeah.
True.
Then
All right, we'll just
another one. We'll roll with it. Oh,
we'll
Sherry
roll.
says we're good right now. Maybe it'll get better. And we don't care if Jason cuts out or not because we don't want to hear what he says anyway.
That to the bone says it's StreamYard. I was live earlier and had the same issue.
Ah, there you
Damn
go.
those guys.
There we go. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That sounds right then.
All right, Jason, floor is yours.
All right. So back as I was saying, bring this all sort of back together. The tulpa concept of sort of like a thought form that's sort of created because we all think about something like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. That's not what the tulpa is in Tibetan Buddhism, right, Donny? You explained it's basically like the avatar for. So it's one person's avatar. It's a conscious creation. So what happens is you have a concept from a religion that's then sort of adopted and twisted and stripped for parts to make a rhetorical point and sort of give it more credence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I come and I tell you, well, hey, I have this idea and it's based on this thing here, it sort of has more street cred instead of I'm just making it up out of nothing. That's kind of what happens with the Book of Enoch is people say they sort of appeal to it and then they completely they just ignore all of what's actually said in the book, right? Or it's how it's presented or what even the Book of Enoch is. And so we see that happening a lot. And the simple fact of the matter is, the Book of Enoch talks a lot about the Nephilim and the Watchers, but it's a very small section of the Book of Enoch. Like first, because here's the thing, there's technically 3 Enochs. First Enoch is the one that's considered the most authentic as far as what they would have been reading back in the Second Temple period. And what we should think of is that first Enoch is a theological treatise that was developed during the Second Temple period as a way of exploring particular concepts in history and expands
real quick, Jason. Explain to the people listening at home for some who might not understand, what was the Second Temple period? Or when was it? Yeah,
good question. So basically, think about the time of Jesus, a little bit before that, like 50, 60 years before that. You could honestly probably go further. It goes further back than that. Essentially, it's a time period so you have Israel, right? They get themselves set up. You have the period of the judges. Then you have the kings. Solomon builds the first temple. That temple is destroyed by the Babylonians and Assyrians. And then after the Babylonian exilic period, they return, they rebuild the temple, and then Herod spruces it up, right? So there's a couple 100-year period between, the Nehemiah and I want to say it's closer to 500.
The way I like to explain it very simply to folks is, you know how the Old Testament is everything before Jesus is born and the New Testament is everything after Jesus is born? Second Temple period that we're talking about is kind of like in between, right? After the events of the Old Testament, but right before Jesus is born. that
So
chunk of
yeah,
time.
I mean, yeah, that's a good way
Yeah.
of saying it. Yeah, that 500, that what some would call the quiet period.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the Second Temple period. It's essentially where Israel is a nation, but it does get conquered again by Greece, but they're allowed to maintain themselves as a nation, and they're working out concepts and exploring things. So first Enoch is actually a product of that thinking, right? Of that exploration. And there are clearly oral traditions that get brought into it, and probably even other writings of other prophets that sort of get wound up into it and collected into it. And so it's a very, very influential piece in around the time Jesus is working and teaching. It's a very popular and sort of foundational document that everyone's like, oh, I know what you're talking about, right? Okay, this is going to sound almost sacrilegious. It's not. It would be like Star Wars, right? For us today.
Okay.
You make allusions to it, you pull things out of it to make points. It's kind of the same thing, just a little bit bigger. So while arguments in the early church about adopting it as canon, there were only a few people who were really advocating for it to be considered canon. It was rejected by pretty much everyone, because again, the first, the early church, they were all Jews. They knew what it was. Like, this is not what it should be, right? That's not what it is. It was never part of the Jewish canon, but it was really important. It was sort of foundational literature, if that makes sense. But they never gave it the credence of Scripture. It was just a way of exploring these ideas and these concepts. And what's really useful is when you read it, you can sort of see how these thoughts are reflected in the dialogues that are actually had throughout the entire Scriptures, but really in the New Testament, right? There's a lot of things that it takes a lot of digging, but you're like, okay, I can kind of see how they're thinking about these issues and about these locations. But that's what it is. And again, the fall of the Watchers, the Nephilim, very, very small piece of it. As far as the whole document. But it's an important piece, and it's the piece that most people point to because it gets to the sexy stuff like giants, and then it gets manipulated into whatever else anybody wants to talk about.
Then giants turn into Bigfoot, and then
Exactly. So in the same way that the word tulpa was sort of stripped for parts to make it fit an agenda, it's the same thing. The reason it's popular amongst a lot of people, but also just because it is kind of funky, right? Like there's weird stuff going on. Enoch is going to heaven and he's talking to God and he's seeing how the universe works, and he's talking to the Watchers in hell, and you've got
and he gives an actual physical description of what heaven looks like and the throne of God and everything. Yeah.
Well, in Jesus's nom de voyage, the Son of Man actually comes from the Book of Enoch. Now, some people say, well, hold on, doesn't that come from Daniel? Yes and no. Again, in Daniel, which Jesus repeats that prophecy, right? There is no definitive article, so it can be either a Son of Man or the Son of Man, right? What probably happens is that the writers realize, hold on, Daniel's saying something more with this illusion. I think a better translation would be a Son of Man, because he's just saying it looks human. Son of Man just means human, right? In these contexts. Which is why the most translations, it's like 50-50. Some say a, some say the. By the time we get to the New Testament, though, Jesus puts the definitive article there. But that's because of the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch uses the term Son of Man with the definitive article, the.
So he's like basically saying, I am the man.
Yeah.
Like Becky Lynch.
Exactly.
Yes.
But yeah, it's so in the Book of Enoch, that was sort of the stand-in for the Messiah, for like the final Messiah. So it's a really important book, and but it's also it's interesting in its own right for a lot of reasons, but it gets sort of stripped for parts to so somebody can talk about things.
Here's one from Freaky Geek for you, though. She just put that out there.
Yeah, no, the tulpas are not in the Bible. What I was saying is is sort of how people use Enoch in popular Fortean channels is very much the same way people use the word tulpa, right? It's divorced from its origins. It is stripped down for parts and basically used to give credence to something that probably it's to try and give it more street cred. Would be the way to look at it. Which is not to say that the idea of thought forms are necessarily don't have credence within themselves, only that the word tulpa is used as a way of giving them more credence than perhaps it deserves for the thought. Oh, Freaky, don't worry about it. You weren't. With all the breaking up and things, I'm glad to sort of clear that up.
Clarify.
So yeah. So yeah, again, a lot of these things, the problem is they just get misused because people want to make a point, and they either, again, never attribute to malice that which can be attributed to ignorance. I think most people they hear about the Book of Enoch instead of reading the Book of Enoch, and so they
because I can tell you right now, I've never read it, and I've never even thought to read it, honestly, and so it. But then again, it was nothing that ever captured my attention like it does a lot of people's too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I read it. Yeah, well,
you're
that shit
easily
at Barnes and
entertained.
Noble.
So.
Yeah, I went to Barnes
He's
and
a nerd.
Noble. Yeah.
So, and again, it's interesting. And again, the problem is because we're translating things from the original language into English. We're not necessarily trying to make translations match up. There's some things that you don't know are in there, like it doesn't match up. You have to learn a lot of geography. Cosmic geography is one of the most important things anyone who's reading the Bible can learn, because it reveals a lot about how the Bible is constructed and what these thoughts are as far as how it's used. So, but yeah, Book of Enoch, not scripture. No one really considered it to be scripture. There were a few people who did, but by and large, it is what it is. It's a very, very important theological treatise. It doesn't mean the things in there aren't real or aren't true, but rather we shouldn't take them as newspaper reports, but rather just this is what they had in their mind, particularly during the New Testament while they were writing it.
So one of the big myths that a lot of people kind of subscribe to is that the Book of Enoch was super ancient, right? That it was like one of the most original texts that got taken out by whoever. No, the Book of Enoch was actually fairly newer, I guess, than a lot of the books in the Old Testament. Written at the Second Temple period, right? A lot of Greek influence.
And
absolutely.
It
wasn't super ancient, right?
The end of it and the start of the New Testament. So So before all the begats, that's where we're at, right?
It's very much. So I don't like calling the 500 years between Malachi or Malachi the Italian prophet. No, only a few people got that.
That's old school.
I did. I was
that's some old school Sunday school jokes. Yeah. Anyway, so during the actually it's 400 years. They call it the quiet period. The problem is that's where we get a lot of the Septuagint, or that's where not the Septuagint, but what we would call the Apocrypha sort of falls in, and a lot happens during that time frame. But yeah, so essentially it's during that time frame that the Book of Enoch is written. So is it ancient? Well, yes. But is it the way it's often presented is this is something that Noah brought with him on the ark? It was absolutely not in any way that document. Again, it doesn't mean that there aren't elements that aren't oral tradition that may go back as far as Moses or even earlier. In fact, that's really what it looks like it is. It's sort of taking a lot of oral traditions and other cultures and sort of working it into a narrative to make sense of what's going on around them, right? And there's probably even writings of prophets we've never even heard of that were sort of copied and pasted into it, as well as a way of exploring these concepts and ideas. So is it ancient? Yes. Is it more ancient than anything in the Old Testament? Absolutely not. It's from, probably just before Jesus, like probably 100, 200 years before Jesus. And, That's
so I'll put it like this. For those of you folks, you've all watched 300, right? The Battle of Thermopylae, the 300 Spartans. Yes. The Book of Enoch was written 180 years after that event.
That's a really good way of saying that. I like that.
So it's not super ancient.
Then why is the Book of Enoch not mentioning the greatness that is Leonidas?
It does talk about giants, but it doesn't bring up his abs. Jason McLean doesn't bring up his abs.
Come on now.
And
for everybody else that doesn't know for sure, 300 was actually based off of a graphic novel. Okay, it was not actually based off the actual battle.
Yes. No. Yep. I had all the original. By the way, if you go and you buy 300 now, it comes in this very long edition hardcover, which is great. But I got the originals. I got the floppies, baby. Although I have to admit, I think the hardback is actually better because you can see it all as well.
Well, and you can follow it all in one fell swoop instead of dealing with it. One. It's like me with the Green Mile. I got the original 6 serial books that came out, several months or so apart, and I'm like, get done with one. I'm like, and it's only that thick. It's like maybe 100 pages or so, and I'm like, when's the next one coming, Steven? God dang it, hurry up!
Exactly. So yeah, they probably just didn't know about Leonidas's abs. They just didn't get the message.
I'm guessing so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that's a really good way of putting that, Donnie.
Or I could say it was Book of Enoch was written 23 years after Alexander the Great died.
Yeah, another way of saying it. So again,
good way to do it.
Ancient to us, but it wasn't something that predated.
Yeah, it wasn't like ridiculously ancient.
Relatively contemporary, really.
It wasn't like written at the time of Atlantis or anything, like in the Hyborian age or whatever.
Yeah, and that's how it's often presented is that this was a book that Noah brought on board the ark with him. It's like that's absolutely not what this is.
Not in any way. I understand it.
Lolo is asking, is the Book of Enoch the one that was found in a cave and some of it was used for kindling?
Oh, well, so not exactly. However, it aspects of it were found among. So that's the Dead Sea Scroll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no.
No. That was the Gnostic texts.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was all the feminine stuff that was held down by the patriarchy. Jason McLean.
Yeah.
The Dead Sea Scrolls were supposedly a new gospel of Jesus.
Yeah.
So.
No. Oh no.
That was different. Dead Sea Scrolls were different.
Yeah, Dead Sea Scrolls were different. So here's the problem. That story basically applies to like a dozen different finds.
Yeah.
We have an embarrassment of riches as far as ancient texts, right?
Yeah.
Now
that we know not what to do with.
Yeah, well, we're still translating them because a lot of the papyri that they were written on are very, very fragile. So the Book of Enoch that we have today was rediscovered in the late 1800s in Egypt in a tomb. I want to say it was a priest happened to have a copy of it, like he was buried with it, and we found it. We're like, oh, hey, this is kind of an important document. But again, like you said, there's the Gnostic texts, which were also found. I love the fact that people talk about Gnostics and divine feminine in the same sentence, because that is the most insane concept if you've ever read the Gnostic texts at all.
I think Lolo was referring to the Nag Hammadi library, or what they
that's the Nag Hammadi library is that is the Dead Sea Scrolls. Same thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, but it doesn't matter. There's an embarrassment of riches of finds like that, where it's like, hey, they were just put in a cave somewhere for hiding, and some random person comes across them. Yeah. Anyway, simple fact of the matter is we have found elements of Enoch in and amongst it, but really the most important finds is how influential the book was.
Yeah.
In their writings, because they are quoting it, they are referencing it, they're playing with themes from it, and really what we found with again, a lot of people think the Essene, it was an Essene community that created that created a lot of these texts. There's arguments over that, but we see what it's really given us is more material to sort of work from to see how people were thinking about things. It wasn't like if anyone says, well, there was this secret gospel. Nope. That's not a thing. Thomas, the Gospel of Thomas we know that it was a forgery. Like that's not even, nobody even tries to to argue that, except for people who don't know.
Oh man, because I read that and I read the whole like story of Jesus, and they made it like, because which one was the one where they talk about his childhood, and then you're just like, this is the same story as Clark Kent. It's literally the same story.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's the one with the bird. But
it's basically ancient version of Smallville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? Is that by the time you get to the 3rd century, by the 2nd and 3rd centuries, what you have is, it's not that Christianity was accepted at all, because again, that doesn't really happen until Constantine. And all Constantine did was say, okay, stop turning these people into lampposts. But after once you get through the 1st century and into the middle of the 2nd century, it's popular enough that people start doing their own versions of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so they start trying to, they take Jesus, they try to make him their mascot for whatever ascetic or other philosophy that they want to do. Yeah. Again, honestly, L. Ron Hubbard. It's the Gnostics.
Oh, you said the name.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So essentially, it's like
all credibility was right there.
You a big fan of L. Ron? Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, do we want to go into that mode right now?
Oh, don't make me bust out. Don't make Tom Cruise come up in here.
Hey,
don't make Tom Cruise make an appearance.
Just tell Tom Cruise to hold on to those little handhelds, and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Shut up.
Get himself cleared. Yep.
Okay. Anyway, before you go on, though, Edward had a question here.
Yep.
How does the Ethiopian Enoch text track with this
one? It's actually pretty close. It's the Ethiopian kept it in Coptic, and it's fairly close with what was found. In fact, it was found in Egypt. So again, this is Enoch was to call it a lost text is incorrect. What I would suggest is because the problem is people talk about the Coptic texts or the Ethiopian Bible being the oldest version of the Bible. It really isn't. It's it really wasn't compiled until like 1,000 years ago, if not even a little bit after that. But they had access to a lot of these documents as well. In fact, they kind of actually got it from the Greek version. But they've done a really good job of keeping it, so it was never really lost. We just didn't have older versions of it to compare in an older language. Is the best way to look at it. And yes, Tom Cruise will not come out of the closet.
That's what I just.
No matter how clear he gets.
The minute he said Tom Cruise, that's what I went to.
Okay.
Was that episode?
So
you can't catch me, gay thoughts.
So the first thing we've established is the Book of Enoch is not that old. It's old, but it's not that old, right?
Yeah.
But okay, now let's move on to the second part, Jason. Let's talk about some of what the Book of Enoch actually says, because again, people like to bring it up when they talk about Bigfoot and Dogman. So you've read the text. You're familiar with the Book of Enoch, cover to cover.
Oh yeah.
Is there any indication in the text, in your humble opinion, Jason McLean, of the presence of any Bigfoot or Dogman action?
Not in the Book of Enoch. A lot of what people appeal to is actually from the Book of Giants, which is a separate text altogether. It's sometimes sort of wedged in with it, and it's a contemporary, only because the Book of the Giants describes essentially monsters, right? It's like there are giants and then there are monsters. Like there were multiple different sort of things running around. But the Book of Enoch itself never really describes anything like a Dogman or a Bigfoot per se. Just giants, and of course the mothers of the giants turning into sirens. Like that's really about it. Jasher could also be pointed to, although again, Jasher we know for a fact is a medieval forgery out of Spain. But again, one of those things where it reflects older traditions. It talks about how the Watchers didn't, and again, this comes really from the Book of the Giants as well. The Watchers didn't pollute just humanity, but animals as well. And so that's where these monsters are sort of coming from, is they weren't just shacking up with people, right? Angel and person gets giant, and then angel and Shih Tzu gets weird.
Dogman.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's how Dogman was born.
Oh,
An
yeah.
angel
Oh, my brain.
Man. The angel got busy with Fido.
Yep. Yeah, that's got to be what it
Damn.
is.
We
But
figured
yeah, I
it
mean,
out, guys. The origin of Dogman has been achieved.
there you go. Yep. But that's the thing. Like a lot of the concepts that we have for a lot of monsters are not in cryptids they have no real direct correlation with ancient thought, but some of them absolutely do.
Yeah.
Right. Goatman is one I even talk about in Metroplex Monsters. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The earliest version of the Epic of Gilgamesh talks about Enkidu. Well, one of the earliest which is a wild man. One of the earliest depictions we have of Enkidu looks like a goat man.
Yeah.
Right. Although it has the legs of a bull instead of the legs of a goat. But okay, that's
yeah. I mean, but
yeah,
you got to remember how they interpreted back then. So
right. Yeah, it's still essentially the same thing. Again, La Lechuza, I pointed this out, is an owl woman that, again, you go back to the original version of the sirens, they weren't aquatic, they were birds. Harpies, though, would be a better equivalent. And the harpies, depending on who you're reading, were either created by witches, controlled by witches, or were turned into by witches, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we have with Lechuza.
How about that one?
Yeah, like Pan? Yeah. Pan is, again, Pan, Goatman, Fauns, Satyrs, the Indo-European Leshy, right? Enkidu.
Okay.
It's all the same form. It's all the same thing. But we don't really have things necessarily like Goatman, or not Goatman, Dogman per se, right? There are the Cinephali, and that's often way misexplored and misexplained. So we'll save that one for a different day. But the simple fact of the matter is, a lot of things that we sort of, again, we try and tie back to these things. The original audience would have looked at you like, "Are you high? Like you smoking the devil's lettuce here? What are you talking about?" They would not have recognized them at all. They would have recognized some things, but they would have taken a very different interpretation of it. So, but yeah, like the Book of Enoch itself specifically does not give you a pathway to Dogman
or Bigfoot.
Again, the whole Bigfoot thing requires you to think, well, they have to be Nephilim because they're not human and they're tall, right?
And they're big, yeah.
And they're big, and it's like, again, you're stretching where you don't have to with Bigfoot on a lot of this stuff. Now, actually, I will be doing a video eventually, sometime when I get around to it, about about the Nephilim and Bigfoot, and the answer is almost certainly not, 100% yes, and then maybe.
And ladies and gentlemen, that might be sometime next year if you like.
Yeah. It'll be in the calendar year 2025, just whenever I have time.
Yeah.
Towards
okay.
the tail end.
Get ready for that New Year's Eve celebration, guys.
Yeah, towards the tail end, guys.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, the problem is we are, and again, it's not like this doesn't happen throughout history, and with a lot of religious texts is that people, they take them and they try to interpret them in their context, in the world that they live. They want to see their lives reflected in it, and so it's not uncommon for this to happen. In fact, you could make an argument. We see a lot of this in medieval texts, right? Of them trying to process these things. So we're in good company, but that's what we're doing. It's not that the book actually is saying anything about these things, but we're trying to make it say that so that we can put ourselves into this text in a way, if that makes sense.
So would it be safe to say then, Jason, that calling Bigfoot a Nephilim would be similar to calling a Tyrannosaurus Rex a Godzilla?
You know what? I like what you did there.
Pretty good analogy there, right?
That's a really good analogy.
I'm going to say no.
Nobody cares,
because
Randy.
Godzilla was not a T-Rex. Godzilla was an iguana, right?
We don't talk about Zilla. We don't talk about Zilla ever.
Gojira!
It's only Toho. This is a Toho-only channel, sir.
Well, they never explained it as being a T-Rex. They just said it was something that got irradiated. That's all they said.
It was an ancient monster that got irradiated, and only sometimes also is the souls of Japanese soldiers. But that's a different kettle of fish. But yeah,
Gojira.
No, Gojira. But actually, so Donny, your metaphor is good. Only, I will put this one caveat. I think this is something we've talked about ad nauseum on other shows, so I won't.
Yeah.
I won't delay it. The problem is the Bigfoot phenomena is basically at least 2 or 3 different phenomena that's all being crammed into one box. So this one's saying, if we're talking about the supernatural paranormal aspect of the Bigfoot phenomena that people encounter, I would say, yeah, 100% there's Nephilim involved. If we're talking about the naturally occurring biological entity, the thing that's running around pooping and eating things and occasionally pimp slapping cars, probably not. I would say that's probably just a creature running around. We have plenty of fossil evidence for large primates. We don't need something like Nephilim for them.
Sounds like Jason's kind of leaning towards the aper camp.
Only for the physical ones, yeah. I just started the whole thing is this paranormal stuff is probably Nephilim in a way. Like there's definitely a connection there. But again, I said possibly 3 different phenomena. I think feral humans need to be thrown in there, and I would not be opposed to saying that some of these feral humans could very well be Nephilim. But like I said, conversation for a different day.
Yep.
As an aside, though, I want to let everybody know we're going to be doing a show pretty soon, just because I'm watching these chats over here, and we will do a show with nothing but Godzilla versus Gamera, just to let y'all know that, because I see a lot of blasphemy going on. All right. Just
yes.
Giving you a heads up now. All right. Go ahead.
All right.
Gamera.
So,
what the heck am I talking?
Okay. So then, with all the stuff that you hear in this community about the Nephilim and all that, and what does the Book of Enoch actually say about them? And what does the paranormal cryptid community get right or wrong about that Nephilim action?
That's a really good question. The problem is it's a bit of all of the above, right? And again, it also depends on who you're talking to. I think what I would say is the Nephilim are really important. And the Book of Enoch is really important to understanding a lot of the Nephilim, specifically for understanding a lot of the Old Testament and what was going on there and the conversations that were being had. And the Book of Enoch specifically for the New Testament, as far as many of the conversations that was being had, as far as even particularly the what Jesus's mission even was. In a way, I think we've lost a lot of what it does is those elements provide context for a lot of his actions and a lot of his speech. And when you sort of understand that, a lot of things, you start to read it a little differently. But I think the things that people get right about it is, yeah, there were Nephilim. There may still be Nephilim running around, right? I think that's the one thing everyone at least is getting right is the supernatural and the physical are not as separated as people want them to be, or what we have popularly understood. I think that's the thing everyone gets right. The thing where things that everyone gets wrong is they make I think the number one issue is they try to make the Nephilim the whole thing. I literally did an episode after talking about the importance of the supernatural and the importance of the Nephilim and the Book of Enoch. I followed it up with the Nephilim are not that important. Because there are people who I would respect, again, no names, but there are people who do a lot of work that I respect, and they're doing good, solid, really good work, right? But they try to make the Nephilim all of it, and I'm like, that's you've fallen, you've gone too far on that, right? There's a lot that should be understood about them, and how they play into the story of the Old Testament, how Jesus is interacting with these things, and the importance, absolutely, but they're not that important in the grand scheme of things. They are something to be put in its place, right? They're the gear on your bike that helps you switch from gear 1 to gear 2, right? It's important, but they try to make it everything has to tie into the Nephilim, and the Nephilim were doing this, and this has to be Nephilim. It's a Nephilim bloodline, and it's like, you're overthinking it.
Hmm.
Because I would suggest that the bigger story of the Nephilim, it's not even necessarily the physical descendants of them. Right? We are supposed to think of these things in other terms. Really, I think the main thing is when we see them as, again, they were cannibals, right? Particularly in the Book of Enoch. The authors aren't necessarily saying, hey, the Nephilim are those things over there and only ever those things. Is that they become the spirits that plague humanity, right? They become part of the Shahadim. They become the evil spirits that we're interacting with, and you can become just like them. When you exploit your fellow man, when you oppress your fellow man, when you torment your fellow man, when you care only for yourselves, you are joining in the Nephilim. You are becoming one of them. The fact that the first tyrant in not just, again, the Old Testament, because the Old Testament talks, or not the Book of Enoch, but in the Bible itself, the first tyrant given a name is Nimrod. And he becomes a Gibborim, which a lot of people have attached as a Nephilim. The Bible's trying to tell you something, right? That these tyrants are connected to these creatures. Same thing with a lot of the trend understanding of Enoch is that a lot of these, again, the conversation is a lot of, in the ancient world, they pointed to these sort of divine heroes as their founding, right? They would say that their founders were half divine, half human.
Mm-hmm.
There were these demigods.
My question then was this, who was Nimrod again? Say it again.
He's the first tyrant listed in Scripture, given a proper name.
Was he stupid?
No. Actually, hold on.
How come they started using Nimrod as stupid people?
Looney Tunes.
No, that's true. I forgot about that.
So here's what happened. Yeah, because Nimrod, his name literally means a great hunter, and it says he was the great hunter before the Lord. When they wrote that back again in Looney Tunes, the culture was actually more biblically literate. So when Elmer Fudd shows up, what does Bugs Bunny call him? He says Little Nimrod.
That's all fine and dandy,
right? Because he's calling him a hunter, but he's mocking him. But what we did in the American, we took that, said, oh, Elmer Fudd's an idiot. Nimrod now means idiot.
That's because everybody watching Looney Tunes was like, what the hell's a Nimrod?
Yeah, because they were kids.
Why would you overthink that, for a kid's cartoon?
Well, so here's the thing. A lot of Looney Tunes were really highbrow. There's a lot in there. There's a lot in there. So,
I mean, how do you think I got my daggum love of opera now?
Oh, yeah.
Barbara Seville, with Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd.
Oh, yeah. Those were the best. But yeah, I mean, even the frog thing, right?
What was Nimrod in Scorpion King?
I don't remember. I honestly don't remember the movie. I saw the movie. I didn't watch it.
It's very forgettable. It really is. So,
yeah.
Still, I never even thought about that.
I saw the movie. I just didn't think of it. Yeah. I tried to forget that movie. That was bad. Like the song though.
The main villain of Scorpion King wound up to play Alfred in that series Gotham.
Oh, did he?
That was the same guy.
Oh, interesting.
Wait, which one?
The main villain.
The villain in Scorpion King. The guy who was able to deflect arrows. I forgot his name. That was the same dude who played Alfred in that Gotham series.
Was that Alfred?
Yeah, that was Alfred.
Because every time I think of any of the mummies, I think of the dude that played the mummy himself. In the first two.
Oh, Arnold von Slew or something,
or whatever his name is. Yeah, he plays a lot of Israeli type roles too. So but he was a genius. Okay, so never mind. I digress. Go.
Kevin says Nimrod was not in the Scorpion King. All right, cool.
Okay.
Anyway, I mean, there's a bigger message with them about us becoming like them.
Yeah.
And governments becoming like, or essentially large centralized governments having, or essentially being derived from the Nephilim. Like, so they are far more important. I think we get lost in the sexiness of, angel human hybrid. And it's like, you're missing the bigger point. It's something that they were something that shouldn't have existed. They became evil spirits, and they affect us today. And when you oppress your fellow man, when you hurt your fellow man, when you don't when you are not your brother's keeper, you are being like them.
Hmm.
And I would say that would be the bigger point. We don't need them to have anything to do with Bigfoot for them to be important.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Godzilla was a mutant. Roger Reese was the name of the actor.
Okay.
I'm about to find out that.
I don't know if I had ever known his name.
Nimrod was an X-Men. He was one of the Sentinels.
Yeah, he was.
He was a future Sentinel. Yep.
Yeah.
Because again, Hunter.
Yep.
Mighty Hunter.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Stephen Brand. Okay, so Stephen Brand is the name of the actor.
While Randy looks that up, Godzilla is a mutant. It depends on which version you go with, because originally he was the original version. He's this ancient dinosaur-like creature that does get mutated.
Yeah.
Which is what I liked. Which is what I really liked about Godzilla -1, is they tie that together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
much tighter.
Yeah, gives you a better origin.
Yeah, and really makes you understand. I don't think we'll ever see a Godzilla that is in as much pain as Shin Godzilla, where you really understand that scar tissue that he has.
Mm-hmm.
Because the original one, the original Godzilla. Those weren't scales; they were I forget the type of scarring, but it's essentially the scarring you get from radiation burns.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have recognized that as such, and so the Godzilla -1 does a good job of sort of having both, right? There's still scales, but you see the original version of Godzilla, then you see him once he's been mutated by the radiation. You can tell like the scars are there, but you still have Shin Godzilla did that right.
Okay, I love Shin Godzilla too.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Okay.
All good. The best Godzilla films are always commentaries on culture.
Pretty much. Okay, continue your talk about the.
Well, I did. I've already finished it up, so Donnie has to come up with another question.
Okay, so actually, can I share my favorite bit about the Book of Enoch for those of you who may or may not have read it?
Please.
So all the stuff about like the Watchers hooking up with like human women and then begatting all the Nephilims and stuff, that's all in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Or in the beginning of that trilogy, right? The series of books. Now, my favorite bit is kind of like I don't know, there's a little bit of comedy in there too.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, because so Randy, because you haven't read it, I'll explain it to you. Okay, so the Watchers, right? They're like this elite squad of angels that were being very naughty because they were sent there to watch humanity on God's behalf. But what they wind up doing is they start doing the dirty with some of our females, trying to get up on our women, right? And Enoch, God says like to Enoch, hey, go over to those dudes, let him know that that ain't cool. I ain't down with that.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty pissed off about it, honestly. And then, so Enoch goes to the Watchers. They're all hooking up with these human females and they're begetting all the Nephilim.
Mm-hmm.
Enoch's all like, yo, guys, I don't think you should be doing all that. And all them Watchers are like, ooh, oh man, I think we messed up. Yo, do you think you could, I don't know, apologize to God on our behalf? I think we're kind of screwed here. Enoch's like, I ain't going to apologize to him on your behalf. And they're like, no, you got to, actually, you know what? We're not going to let you leave until we have you deliver this letter. And they made him write a letter, like this really long apology letter to God. Be like, dear God, we're sorry. We couldn't keep it in our pants. And
our bad.
Our bad. And we'd like to get back in your good graces. Enoch's here sitting here writing this because he's got no choice. He's being like, forced to, but he's thinking here this whole time, yo, I don't think this is going to work, guys.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
That story's so bad that even Toby had to get away.
Yeah, I didn't write it. That's what happened.
But your explanation of it scared him off.
Well, what's funnier is he takes it to God and he's like, hey, those Watchers you have burning in hell, they're they're sorry. And he's like, okay, go tell them no.
So he became the gopher, huh?
Yeah, he became the gopher.
Yeah.
This is actually why a lot of people, and because Enoch was taken to heaven, a lot of people think that he became, in Catholic thought, he's Metatron, the voice of God that we see throughout the scriptures. I wouldn't agree with that, but that's sort of where the idea of him becoming Metatron comes from, is that because he went back and forth on those 2 times, because God's like, you go tell them that their responsibilities were to watch out for y'all. You Enoch should not be praying to me on their behalf. They should be praying to me on your behalf. So go tell them. The answer is hell no.
Right.
Yeah,
literally,
it's hilarious.
Hell no.
Yeah, literally hell no.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some really there are some very humorous aspects of.
It's just got a very different tone at some points than like what you would expect from the Bible normally, because a lot of it is like objectively kind of goofy, like these all-powerful beings just being all scared and asking Enoch, to a normal human man, by the way, to like literally write them an apology letter.
Yeah. Oh, it's hilarious. Well, again, one of my favorites. Again, the Bible the Bible itself has a really interesting sense of humor in places that we often because of how we look at it, we don't realize the tone. But like one of my favorite stories is the story of the fish with the gold coin in the fish's mouth, right? Because it starts with Jesus ostensibly talking to himself. Like he's kind of like sitting there just kind of like, and Peter's like, hey, we got to pay the temple tax. And you could just see Jesus over there's like, hey, Peter, do you think that the king's sons pay taxes? Like, he doesn't want to pay. He's pissed off about having to pay taxes. He's like, I am literally God. And these pieces of crap are making me pay taxes. And Peter's like, what? And you can just see it. Like, he's just like, he's talking to himself. He's like, never mind. Just go catch a fish. There'll be a coin in it. Like you could just tell he's frustrated with everything going on. And when you realize he has these moments, so many other scenes sort of pop up. You're like, oh, he's just so tired of our crap.
Yep.
And it's just because it's like it even reads that way in the text, but we just don't allow ourselves to realize that's what he's saying. We think he has to have some big, and again, there are big theological themes in that scene. There really are. But there's also him being probably the most human, where he's like, I have to pay taxes. I'm God. I don't have to pay taxes. But I'm going to do this because I have a time. I'm on a schedule here. So, yeah. Literally,
God gets annoyed a lot throughout the course of the Bible, especially the Old Testament. You could tell he gets annoyed very easily.
As he should. Read Isaiah, but instead of reading it as, and particularly when God is talking, don't read Isaiah like the omniscient, very polite British man that we have in our head, in our theological voices, but read it as Antonio Banderas in a telenovela. Particularly when God is actually speaking. I think that once you're like, okay, I'm going to read this in the voice of Antonio Banderas in a telenovela, and then at the end you're going to be like, oh, this is why Israel goes, and then tumbles down some stairs for a century or so. Yeah. It's like it doesn't just make it more enjoyable or make it come alive. It actually, I think, lets you know, oh, I have been reading this wrong, right? I've been sort of imposing these terms on, or these concepts on it that's not there. And God's a very Jehovah's a very passionate God. He wants a relationship. He's doing his best to working with the dumbest creatures on the planet. And yes, that is us. Dogs would not have given God this much trouble, but he's like working with these morons. Yeah. So, yep.
Yeah.
So people might be curious, Jason. So if all the juicy stuff or all the stuff that's relevant, I guess, to the scene is all in the beginning of the Book of Enoch. So what does the other parts talk about? All the other chunks of that series of books that nobody mentions.
So really the rest of it is having a conversation through different stories and prophecies and visions about the flood and the history of Israel and the coming of the Messiah. Again, like I said, at the very end, right at the end of the book, I saw a question that said there are three, or there's more than one book of Enoch. There are multiple versions of it. First Enoch is the most authentic. Second and third Enoch were more sort of fan edits that were done in the sort of Ukrainian and Russian era. So
you gotta love fan fiction, don't you?
yeah. Well, that's really that's probably the best way to look at the Gnostic Gospels. They're basically just it's fan fiction.
Yeah,
that's the best way to look at it, and not very good fan fiction. But yeah, so the rest of it is sort of essentially is them is sort of through Enoch is exploring the role of or the history of Israel, the Jewish people, sort of in the idea of prophecy, but that it ends with Jesus as the Son of Man. Again, it's not that they thought Jesus was the Son of Man, because Jesus hadn't been born yet, right? But they were they took Daniel's Son of Man, right? They were taking elements of the concept of the prophet, from Moses' prophecy about the prophet who would come. They were taking a lot of these ideas and saying, okay, well, what does this actually look like, and play with? And so what you have at the end is this divine being who's there, who's called the Son of Man, who's clearly the one who's going to come and fix everything, right? So this is one of those ideas that we, again, because we put a lot on the text, and we sort of have our own assumptions baked in. Heiser talks about the two powers theory, the two heavenly powers theory, which is that the Trinity is not a new concept. In fact, a lot of theologians have said it's right there at the end of Isaiah 53, that you have God the Father, essentially what we would call God the Son and the Holy Spirit, all as separate things, but the same thing. And in the Old Testament, particularly during the Second Temple period, a lot of theologians were like, hey, hold on. It looks like God's here, but God's also doing this. And we have, Yahweh here and Yahweh over here. It's like there's the angel of the Lord is also, because angel just means messenger. It's not a species of creature. It's the job, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are angels that talk like what we would anticipate an angel talking like, right? Like God in the third person. Mm-hmm. But then there's this one dude who shows up who is speaking in the first person for God. So by the time Jesus
sort of
around,
like the mouth of Sauron in the Return of the King.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah. So there's this. So they picked up on all this, and they're like, "Well, what's God trying to tell us with this?" And that's when they realized there is Jehovah, right? There's the God, but then there's another being who is also God, but he's the thing that we're interacting with. Like they're the same, but they're different. So the Trinity was not it wasn't some Christian invention per se. It's an extrapolation of what used to be very mainstream Jewish thought at the time. And we kind of see this idea reflected in the Son of Man character that we find at the end of Enoch, although it's not as described the same way. But the idea of the Messiah ultimately being this king who's going to come, this supernatural being that already exists, that's going to come in the future and fix everything, that is very much in there. And he is. And when Jesus calls himself the Son of Man, he is saying that character, you picking up what I'm letting down here, Peter? And he does. So yeah, it's one of those things where the rest of the book is an exploration of Jewish history and them sort of talking about themselves and how this was going to work out. How were the next millennia happening? And then at the end, it's like, that's the guy who's going to come and save us. Mm-hmm. That's the guy who's going to put all this right and is going to fix everything. Again, they didn't know how per se, but that's what the rest of the book is about. And again, everyone focuses on not the wrong part. I just think they focus on the part of the book that is applicable in their mind to the Fortean realm. And they restrict it to just that stuff because they want to, again, going back to the tulpa analogy, they're trying to strip it for parts to give their opinions and their thoughts and their theories more credence than perhaps they've earned on their own, right? Sort of like when ChatGPT appeals to things that it created, right? When it's like, well, why would you say this? And it gives you references, but like half the reference material doesn't exist because it's hallucinated, which is my favorite tech version of, just straight up lied to you. So it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. So it wasn't some part of this agenda to wipe out all the weird, mystical, supernatural stuff from the Bible, or to suppress any kind of conversation about aliens or giant monsters, or the sacred feminine, or anything like that.
Yeah, nothing like that.
It was kind of like, just ancillary. It was just kind of there. It wasn't, and it was fairly recent.
I mean,
for its time.
It was a contemporary document, and they knew what it was. And again, there were people who wanted it in, but they were a small minority. Like, really, this is one of those overstated things. People like the books that were banned from the Bible. It's like most of these books weren't banned from the Bible. They just really weren't up for consideration. There were really only 3. Enoch would be, you could argue, was the 4th one, but even then, it was a very small minority. You had Clement and the writings of Saint Clement and the Shepherd of Hermas, and some people call it the Didache. I think that's probably correct. I like Didache, but that's just because I'm a Texan. I've never pronounced anything correctly. Those were the only 3 documents that really were legitimately up for canonization, as far as conversations that were had that didn't make it in. And it wasn't like there was one time. There were the conversations about what the corpus should look like went on for centuries, and it never. Here's the thing: it really doesn't change that often. There were a few books here and there that kind of went this way and that way, but by and large, the reason the Protestants have the 66 that they have is because that was the most common. Everyone.
Okay, yeah. Let me ask. I was about to ask you this. So the 66 books that we, as Protestant Western Americans, all know and love. When was that? When were those 66 books? When was that particular version of the order and the number of books? When was that exactly finalized?
Well, that's going to depend on who you talk to. Because in one regard, they were sort of finalized over 1,000 years ago, and others only a few hundred years ago. It really, this is one of those things where there's always conversation. It's been a lot more dynamic than people want to believe. Essentially, the version that we have today, there were pretty large and pretty influential theologians going all the way back to the 4th and 5th centuries that basically said what we would have today is what should be there, with 1 or 2 books again being in question. But there have been others, again, the books that we would call the Apocrypha, which come from the Septuagint. Those were the most commonly collected. It really isn't until the Council of Trent that you have sort of the official, sort of thing. But again, a book that we would consider to be the Bible, right, existed before Nicaea. Like, that was already a thing. So there. What's his face? I said his name earlier. The guy who made Christianity legal is
Constantine.
Constantine did have several. My names don't work with my brain.
Okay.
Yeah, he had several of these books created, but everyone's like, "Oh, so he had it written?" No. He just asked them to be collected, right? He wasn't like trying to like this is this. That wasn't what happened. Everyone's like, oh, he's sitting down figuring it out. That's not what happened. He was just like, hey, can you collect all the scriptures everyone agrees with? And I'll, as a gift to show my goodwill to Christians, I'll have some of them made up. He had nothing to do with it. All he did was pay for their creation. That's all he did. And we do have at least one version of this. I think it's Sinaiticus. And basically it's the same book we would see today. I think, although I do think it includes the books of the Apocrypha, but again, it's because that was from the Septuagint, right? The Septuagint had that material in it, and many early Christians adopted that. So this is one of those things where there have been a lot of different versions as far as lists collected. The 66 books of the modern Protestant Bible was sort of finalized only a couple hundred years ago, because there was controversy over the books of the Apocrypha. But most Protestants in Europe actually keep the Apocrypha, particularly German, Greek Orthodox. They have all that. So it's one of those things where it's not really set in stone. But the 66 books are the one that are they're the books that nobody argues over at all. Everyone's like, yep, those belong. And then you have others, because there's other collections, right? The Russian Orthodox has a slightly different version. Greek Orthodox has a slightly, again, the Coptics have a different version, and even how the Coptics sort of understand Scripture is a little different from us. Like they have Enoch in their Bible as well as a few others, over and above what the Catholics would have, but they don't necessarily consider them the scriptures in the same way we would consider like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, right?
Right.
Like they understand that they have different degrees of canonicity. It's more like this is important to know and understand, but it's not canon. Like it's not scripture, right? And even the way we would consider the Bible is very different from how, the people who received Sinaiticus, they would not have said that's the Bible or that is scripture. They would say that is a book containing scripture. Right? They would have seen it very, very differently from how we read it today or how we see it today. I don't know if that made sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things where there isn't a single date where there's like, it's sort of like a lot of things. We have this assumption of how something happens, and that's just not what it is. Often it's much more complicated. It's much messier. But in that messiness, in that very human endeavor, that's where you see the divine, because we see all these different people with different backgrounds and opinions and histories and conflicts, and they're like, yeah, we agree on these things, right? And they were agreed upon long before Constantine ever showed up. And then there's this constant conversation about which books, are what. So yeah, it's messy and it's human, but it's also in that messiness we get to see the divinity because of how it does shake out. I forget who said it first, but they said the church didn't define the scriptures. It didn't define the Bible. It discovered the Bible. Because it wasn't imposed. It was already, the early Christians who were getting turned into street lamps were already saying these are scriptures long before anybody could actually sit down and formalize anything. And that's why we have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of copies of it. Like this is the other thing I think we miss in this conversation entirely. If the Book of Enoch had been so drastically important that a majority of people would have seen it as scripture, they would have copied it a lot. If the Gnostics were always a fringe, again, they were the equivalent of L. Ron Hubbard. They were cults. That's all they were. Because we have thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of handwritten copies of the New Testament books, the Gospels and the letters, all of them, in different languages, because they would translate into Syriac and they would be translated into Coptic. We have them all over the place. That you just at the letters and the books that were written, and by the way, the ones that the early church was talking about, we could reconstruct between 80 and 90% of the New Testament from quotations from the letters of the early church alone, of the church fathers who were talking about how does this all play together, right? We could literally reconstruct 80 to 90% of the New Testament from their conversations. So it's one of those things where, yeah, there wasn't a day where one dude was like, hey, I wrote the Bible. It was hashed out. It was a very human process. But in that you can see, oh, there are these themes that everyone's agreeing on these books. And they're talking about these books. And they're risking their lives to write these books. Right? People from all walks of life are risking their lives to spread this gospel, knowing that it could cost them their lives. That's how we got the book that we got. Again, we were joking at the beginning that, Santa Claus bitch slapping heretics. Well, yeah, but he'd also just gotten out of prison. Like a lot of the bishops that were there at Nicaea had been oppressed under the Diocletian reign of terror. Nero being the worst, but like the Diocletian, like he put a lot of these people in prison, right? Like that was the thing, is that a lot of these people had to be let out of prison to go do what they were doing.
Yeah.
So a lot of these books were, again, they were already known to be scripture by the time anyone's thinking about trying to put them all in one easy to read book. We are the recipients of a lot of hard work by a lot of nameless people that we will never know.
True.
So what I'm getting from the gist of all this then is the Gnostics and the Book of Enoch and stuff like that, they really didn't have a lot to do with the price of tea in China at all, did they?
The Gnostics, absolutely not. The Book of Enoch, the importance of it is that it was culturally important and sort of defined how they were thinking about things in the first, during the Second Temple, right? For example, a great example of this is the Mount of Transfiguration. Lots going on there. Like there's a ton, but the reason I forget, I think it's Mount Tabor is what's usually said to be the Mount of Transfiguration. That comes from history, right? That's sort of someone's like, we think it was over here. But if you look at the text, it says that they were in the era before that. They were in Caesarea Philippi, which is a very specific region, and they go up on a high mountain, right? And this is before Peter's like, "Hey, yeah, you're God," and this is where Jesus like, "The gates of hell will not prevail." At the base of Mount Hermon is this thing that they call the gates of hell. It's what the Jews called it. The Greeks and the Romans worship Pan there in this grotto. It's called Pan's Grotto because that's where Pan is usually worshipped. Is actually in grottos in the ground. In the grottos,
yeah.
That is the base of Mount Hermon. Mount Hermon is the tallest mountain in Caesarea Philippi.
Okay.
So when they're there, he says, the gates of hell cannot prevail against what he's doing. And then the next story is him taking James and John and Peter up to this high mountain where he's transfigured with Moses and Elijah, and God's like, this is the dude, right? That, when you put all that together, and you would miss this, Mount Hermon is where the Watchers descended to do their contract to create the Nephilim in the first place. It was this point of, hey, we're coming here to do this. And in the Jewish mind, because that mountain actually isn't called Mount Hermon that often in the Old Testament, but it does pop up a lot. Bashan is also a word that's used that's associated with that mountain. What's happening is Jesus is like, this is where I'm starting from, my reclamation of humanity. Because if you were to ask anyone today, why is the world the way it is? Most modern Christians will say, well, because of Adam and Eve and the fall in the garden, right? But if you were to ask a Jewish person from the Second Temple period, he'd say, well, the reason things are as bad is, we fell in the garden, you got Satan and the apple and all that. But then there were the Watchers, and they taught us how to do a bunch of evil things. And then you had the Tower of Babel, where God was like, fine, I'm done with you people, right? There were 3 events that they would have said had to be corrected. Yes, Satan has to be defeated with the deception of humanity. The Watchers and the Nephilim and what they did, their further corruption of humanity, that has to be defeated. And then the separation of humanity into nations has to be defeated, because these are all products of why we're fighting each other and why we're doing such evil things. By the Mount of Transfiguration, Jesus is like, I'm starting it here. Right? He's like, this is no longer their territory. This is my territory, because that links to the nations. The miracle at Pentecost, what happens? You have the 120 that are there in the upper room that receive the Holy Spirit. They're speaking, and other people are hearing other languages. It is the reverse of the Tower of Babel. right?
Yep.
And of course, Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection defeats Satan, who is the king of hell, who is in hell meaning death, not the place of torment, but death.
Mm.
That's why, he's the king of it, but it doesn't mean he's the master of the realm per se. Like, that's his realm, but he's very much he will be locked there eventually. It's just he kind of gets called the king of hell because he's the reason everything dies. Right? He's the one who starts that process. So it's like, you're the ultimate rebel. We're putting this in this, so this is all your fault. So you get to be the king of that, which is why we're going to defeat you. You are the ultimate villain to be defeated here. So that's context that we miss entirely because we don't really have the Book of Enoch in our head. We don't have, when Paul's like, hey, the head coverings are for the angels, right? It's like, hey, it's like we miss that. We miss these things because we're not putting them in our cultural context when we're reading the scriptures. Why does Jesus? My favorite version of this is Jesus on the beach after his resurrection. He's cooking fish, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like the disciples come in. They've been fishing all night, and they see him, and he's on the beach cooking fish. But he asks them for food. Why? That makes no sense. Like, paper didn't, this was all written on parchment, and parchment was expensive. Mm-hmm. So they were not just throwing random stuff in there because they felt like it, right? There really weren't a lot of embellishments. They didn't have the room. I always thought it was weird that he's cooking fish, but he asks them for food. In the Book of Enoch, one of the punishments for the Nephilim who are dead, right? They've been killed. Mm-hmm. Their punishment is to wander the earth as incorporeal spirits, neither eating nor drinking. These are the things that possess people in the New Testament, right? That Jesus is exercising. It would be very easy for someone to come along and say, hey, Jesus has to be a Nephilim. He said he was a son of a god. He had supernatural powers, and now you're seeing him after he's dead. He must be Nephilim, right? That would be a claim that could be thrown at him. But he's on the beach. He's cooking food. So that makes him material. But he's asking them for food. That means they've given him something. He's eating it, and they can watch him eat it. Mm-hmm. It's evidence that he wasn't, that he was what he claimed to be. He was the resurrected God. He was the God man who was resurrected, and physically and bodily. That's why Thomas gets to touch him. It's like, you're a physical being. You're eating food we gave you. This isn't some sort of weird hallucination.
Ghost? Yeah.
What? Yeah, exactly. Because they had the concept of ghosts at that time too. Like,
that's why all those ladies freaked out when they saw him.
Yeah,
they're like, "Oh no, it's a ghost." Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the same thing happened with Peter, right? When he was released from prison, when the angel busted him out of prison, he shows up. They're all like, "No, you didn't see him. He's dead. That's probably his ghost." Well, they say his angel, right? So during the Second Temple period, I only recently found this out like a year or two ago. They had this essentially what we would call a guardian angel, that they believed that your guardian angel looked like you. So if someone, and it's like, that's my friend, but he's dead. It's like, that's his angel walking around doing stuff. So, yeah.
You guys ever get sudden cravings for ice cream? Just a quick aside.
Just because we were sitting there talking about it out there, weren't we?
Yeah, someone brought up ice cream, and I'm like, man, I want ice cream.
Yeah, it's Boondock. Like, we were talking about a certain person today, obviously. And,
you know what my theory is? By the way, yeah, Boondock mentioned it. Anyway, my theory was that Jesus was cooking fish on the beach, and when everyone walked up, he was like, "Yo, you guys have any bread? Because I'm trying to make a fish sandwich, but I ain't got no bread. I just have the fish. I need some bread, and I need some tartar sauce."
Tartar sauce? Kosher?
He's trying to make himself a filet o fish up in there.
Oh, you know why we have filet of fish?
Why?
Catholics.
Oh yeah? Is that why?
That's why they added it to the, because during Lent you cannot have meat on Fridays. So,
but you can have fish.
You can have fish.
Do a lot of Catholics go to sushi then?
I don't know. Maybe. I know several of my Catholic friends love sushi, but I like sushi too. I don't think it's really.
But but then again, it's Asian, so it's probably not of God.
No, not them heathen Chinese.
Yeah, it's heathen. It's those weird folks from over yonder east.
Yep,
eat all that sacrilegious food.
The soulless Orientals.
Yes, yes.
But yes, no, that's why we have the.
We're savages. We eat our fish raw. All those. Everyone in Korea, when they first brought Christianity over to Korea, first thing the Koreans thought were like, "Wait, he was cooking fish? Why would he be cooking fish?
Why would you ever cook fish?"
Yeah.
Fun thing I learned.
Yeah.
Ketchup is essentially a version of Japanese fish sauce.
I read that somewhere actually.
Yeah, it's like how it gets to be that is kind of like it's a very long and windy thing, but it's like although the Romans had garum, which was essentially the same thing, but yeah.
I didn't know that about filet-o-fish, that's why it was on the menu because of Catholics.
Yeah, I learned that like a month ago. Yeah, I didn't know that at all. They're like, yeah, this is why it was added to the menu, was so that Catholics would have a reason to go to McDonald's.
If I'm not mistaken, if you watch the movie The Founder about Ray Kroc, I think that it's actually mentioned in there.
Oh, is it?
Really?
I must have forgotten about that. That's a good movie. I liked it.
Yeah, it made me hate him even more.
It should. My favorite scene though is the end of the movie when he's trying to explain to them why he needed them. He's like, why don't you just go and make your own version of this? It's not like you can't. It's not like you couldn't just copy what we were doing. It's like he goes,
yeah,
because the one thing you have that you've always had is the one thing you never understood that you had, and it was the name McDonald's. Like that was a name that rolls off the tongue. It was comfortable. It was familiar. It's like, don't you get, like, you don't understand. That was always your thing. The one thing you had more than the process. That was a name that could be trusted and loved and branded. And it's like, that's why I needed you, was the name. So, yeah.
I still hate him.
Oh yeah. No, he was,
I like the filet.
He was a shark.
Though. I like McDonald's.
No, I just hated Ray Kroc.
Oh,
he was not a good person. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, but he gave me, you know what? He brought chicken nuggets into my life with barbecue sauce. He brought some Big Mac into my life. He enriched my childhood with Happy Meals.
Yes.
And I do enjoy the filet-o-fish. I like the McChicken.
Oh yeah, McChickens, spicy McChickens.
So, and I love I love McDonald's breakfast, especially the breakfast burrito, the sausage burrito.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Ray Krockett's he's okay in my book. Randy, don't be judging cuisine.
Y'all need to quit. Y'all need to quit eating all that daggum fast food. Is what it is. I'll tell you. You want to go watch a movie? Go watch Super Size Me and see what happens.
Oh yeah. Well, he made all that up anyway. There's a lot in that was absolutely. Here's the problem, right? We find out later. It's like, oh, he was lying about all of this. So yeah, it's not. It's again. I am trying to get off of fast food entirely because it's still trash.
Yeah, I don't touch it.
Trash.
I literally don't touch it.
Yeah,
I don't like it as much as I like my own food. How's that?
Well, that's fair. I found there is a really sort of great hot and sour soup mix that I can get from, I think Kikkoman makes it.
Yeah,
and it's just the powder. But yeah, it's like that. I throw you throw some eggs in there. I throw some mushrooms and chicken and chop up some green onions. It's not the greatest thing you've ever had, but it's basically all protein and it's good. You know,
100%.
largely
for those of you watching at home, Jason McLean loves himself some hot and sour soup.
I do.
From Kikkoman.
Oh yeah.
No, soy sauce people.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I do love me some hot and sour soup. But you love some hot and sour soup, don't you, Donnie?
Yeah, but not as much as you do.
Oh yeah, I love it a lot.
Like I like to mix it up. Sometimes I'll get egg drop soup. Sometimes I'll get wonton soup. But no, you're getting hot and sour soup all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love it. It's egg drop soup is fine, but I just I like the bite. I judge restaurants by their hot and sour soup.
Yeah.
You like me with Mexican restaurants. I'd judge them by the beef enchiladas.
Yeah. Oh,
if the beef enchiladas are not good, I know that they suck.
Randy, There is a restaurant. It's a brand new restaurant, literally hole in the wall in Alvarado. Legit food. I'll send you a link.
Alvarado, though.
Yeah.
If you ever have to go through Alvarado, it's not a bad. It's literally in the middle of nowhere.
I can count on my hand how many times I've been on Alvarado in my life. Okay, there's nothing down there.
Yeah. Certain parts of Texas, I hear, totally suck. So
I'm going up to Sherman early in the morning. I'm going to Sherman, so I'll be up there to get breakfast with somebody and then pick up parts and bring back down. So yay!
You're driving all the way out to Sherman.
Well,
okay,
she lives in Oklahoma, and she's going up to Broken Arrow to pick the parts up. She's bringing them back there, and then meet me halfway in between mine and her house.
Boondog Mojo says, I judge them by their Mexican beer selection.
Oh, come on. You know Oklahoma ain't got no Mexican restaurants. Come on now.
But it's also a fair assessment.
Oh, yeah, true. I mean, I'd never have like 2 X's,
So, guys, I think we'll end it here because I want to really play some Baldur's Gate 3 before bed. And, yeah, this is cutting into that time. So, gentlemen, where can we find y'all's at?
Hidden.
Sirupapers.com. That links to all my stuff, my books, my X account, and my YouTube channel.
And I think me and you are going to be on tomorrow night with Brandy.
Friday night.
No,
Tomorrow's Thursday.
Both nights are going to be. We're covering. I'm covering
tomorrow night? Thursday?
You can come Friday. I mean, but I'm covering tomorrow.
Oh man, I was supposed to just sit around and play Baldur's Gate.
Well, you sit there and do that, and then we'll have Friday. Will be the good one for when we all get together.
Dude, this game's starting to get really good, man. I'm getting all obsessed with this game, man.
Oh Lord.
Tomorrow I'm going to be on. I'll be on Dean's show tomorrow. So.
Oh yeah, you're doing.
He moved nights too.
Yeah.
I like it. We're playing musical shows now.
Okay. Tell me about it.
Check me out on Donny Cho Says Stuff, guys. You get me more like sushi, more raw. So.
And the ball pit this week, we're not talking about anything Cowboys, okay? Other than if
we killed the Cowboys topic for the time being. We're going to go back to some wrestling topics this Sunday.
Yeah, because WrestlePalooza, I think, is this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah. Hey, Jason, you want to join us for some wrestling talk? We know you love that wrestling.
Yes, I do love me some wrestling. I'll have to see what I'm doing on Sunday. Honestly, and
it's going to be. We've changed the time. Sunday, 8 p.m. our time.
Okay.
We'll talk some wrestling.
Talk about some wrestling. Yeah, I actually may be recording this weekend, so we'll have to see.
All right, guys.
Oh, sure you will.
All right, peace out. Daddy needs to play his video games.
Yeah. Laters.
Are you ready to see what lies beneath the ever-thinning veil of the unknown? Book your craft now for the Crossing Realms Conference September 19th and 20th in Richmond, Missouri.
This is the future.
This unprecedented experience allows you to not only hear and interact with a cornucopia of highly respected researchers, scientists, and experiencers, it will shape the very foundations of your reality. You will lay witness to some of the best evidence collected in decades.
This is the future.
Be a part of history in the making. Get your tickets now at eventbrite.com. The Crossing Realms Conference, where the paranormal becomes normal.